Last week, she moved her business to the South Wedge in Rochester to fulfill the dream of the wellness center that develops community and collaboration among practitioners and in the surrounding neighborhood. The new center includes a large room for yoga therapies, meditation, dance movement, and music therapy. Reverend Lynn sees this as her contribution to the challenges of today's world. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, including music by the one and only Bill Mells. Children's Church for Children 3 and over by Pat and Kaya Mells. It is the Mells team doing a lot today. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway. And whether it's your first visit or your 1000th, we are glad that you came. The service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. And we plan on continuing with hybrid service throughout the church year. So you can join us each week here in person. You can join us live on Zoom, or you can join us later on YouTube. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. And at the end of the service, we will invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave to us. I have a few announcements to share with you today. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the little slips of paper on or near your chair, and we invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket up here after Bill rings the chimes and begins to play. You can also come forward and drop a petal into the water if you have a joy or sorrow you prefer not to share. You may do both. It's all okay. Please join us today after the service for our second Sunday potluck. Every second Sunday of every month, we join in a meal after service. Whether you brought a dish to share or not, you're welcome to stay. There's always enough food. We've been invited to a presentation today at the Farmington Friends meeting by Reverend Keisha Stokes from Zion Episcopal Church in Palmyra, who will discuss regional poverty and how their backpack program and Grace House care for those in need. It is at 12:15, and it's soup and sandwiches, so you can eat twice. And all are welcome for food and fellowship. Keisha's going to speak at 1, and there will be discussion following and should end around 2 o'clock. So you could just have food here and then go there just for the talk. This month, our fourth Friday mindful meal will be a special one with potluck starting at 6, and the gifts of seeds from 7 to 8:30, led by our long-term friend Petra from Fruition Seeds. And if you know Petra, you know you want to be here. And if you don't know Petra, you now know you want to be here. She's amazing. She's just lovely. You can find the full event description posted by the announcements in the back of the room over on the side where there's an announcement board over there if you don't know. So lots of other announcements there too, but announcements about Petra coming will be then. Or you can click the link in the chat. We'll be hosting an Earth Day Festival and Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 19th from 1 to 3 at UUCC. We plan to have tables for Earth Day activities, the Felons Family Farm, Fruition Seeds, house plant cutting swap, and if you got any other ideas, just let us know. The Easter egg hunt was well attended last year, so we will need to have a lot more eggs, and I was one of the people stuffing the eggs last year, and we stuffed a lot of plastic eggs last year, so I can only imagine how many there must be if we're needing more. It's a great way to get the whole community here and kind of know about what we do, who we are. So please help us with that. Please see the list posted by the announcements for ideas on ways to volunteer or items to donate. We are collecting fabric to add squares to the tapestries up front. Most of you know that these represent folks who've been attending the church, who are members of the church. And we have not added squares in quite a few years now. So if you do not have a square on the front and you have joined the church or you're intending to join the church at the upcoming joining ceremony, we would really like to have a piece of you represented on the front. We ask everybody to bring 2 fabric samples so we can make a choice to see where it blends in better, put your name on them, keep the 2 samples together. And we need those by the end of March. We're giving you a little bit more time to get those in. So the box is by the front door, and it's marked fabric box. So I'm pretty sure you can figure out which box it goes into, not the food box that's out there. Okay. Other announcements are that we are down a church board member. So Mike Waller had to step down due to some personal reasons, and so we could really use another person on the board. If you are interested in serving a very short stint on the board to see what it's like, to see whether you might want to do it, because it only goes through July and then we're going to re-elect, you can come on for a couple of months. You should talk to Laura Wink, who's manning the camera today in place of Danielle. So after church, please see her if you'd be willing to step in. We actually didn't have a quorum on Tuesday, so couldn't vote on anything. So we really could use that additional board member. And it's by Zoom. So if you live far away, it doesn't matter. You don't have to make another check-in. Okay, are there any other announcements for the good of the community? All right. Before we continue our usual worship schedule, I'd like to invite Karen Alvarez to come forward to share a Canvas moment.
Take care of my joy and sorrow at the same time, so I don't have to make 2 trips. Good morning. I'm Karen Alvarez. I've been a member here at UUCC for 8 or so years now. And I currently work with several of the committees and serve as the president of the Board of Trustees. So as we start to make plans for the next fiscal church year, starting in July, as Carrie mentioned, I was asked to say a few words about what UUCC means to me and why I show support with both my time and my money. Over the next several weeks, you'll be hearing from other members, some of whom have been attending since the very early days, and likely some who have joined very recently. I look forward to hearing from the different people every year, and I always gain a new perspective on why we all come to church. Last year, I shared a very personal perspective on the value I find in our church. It was very emotional for me, and many people responded with tenderness and generosity. This year, I find my thoughts to be more community-focused. For me right now, it's less about what UUCC has done for me, and more about what I, as a part of this group, can do for others, both within our congregation and outside in the larger community. Last November, as the votes were tallied on election night, I think we all braced ourselves for the way our world would change in the coming months. And we mourned together. A few weeks later, I became a grandma. That's the baby yelling in the back. For the first time. And I braced myself for the way my world would change forever. And we celebrated together. The daily presence of my granddaughter in my life has changed everything. From my sleeping and eating habits to what I value and prioritize and choose to spend my time and financial resources on. Between those two very different but equally impactful changes, I find myself more and more involved here. After the election, when I took my Harris Waltz and other related lawn signs down and stuffed them in the garage, where they still are and probably will be for 20 years, Melissa asked me, without the signs, how will our people be able to find us? And I said, they'll find us. They'll find us because we'll make ourselves findable. They'll know who we are because of what we do and how we act. And what we do matters. It really matters. Especially now with the terrifying rise of fascism and the tiny human that I have to care for every day. Since November, I have seen the members of UUCC stand up, show up, speak out, reach out, and come together over and over again. I have heard idea after idea about what we can do to slow global warming, and protect undocumented workers, and marry same-sex partners, and feed people who are hungry, just to name a few of our concerns. And we're not just talking about it. This is not a thought exercise for us. We're acting. We're finding more of our people. We're forming alliances with other like-minded groups and churches. We're opening our doors to demonstrate our outrage at the murder of Sam Nordquist and support the greater LGBTQ+ community in their grief. We participated in a big gay wedding ahead of a possible loss of that right under the current administration. We're putting together a workshop on how to become more politically active at the local level. This is how we initiate change and better the world. I know I have found my people, and I don't want to lose you. I don't want to be anyplace else. I belong here. So that means I need to invest in UUCC. My granddaughter will learn so much more from what I do than from what I say. And I need to do everything I can now to ensure that UUCC is able to continue what we do for as long as what we do is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And now for a little bit of a belated announcement. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. Now is the time to bring forward any joys or sorrows and or drop a pebble and or column of water. Miss Maria, would you like to help me light the chalice? She's falling asleep back there. Would you like to help me light the chalice? Are you 7?
No, I'm 6.
You haven't turned 7 yet? When's your birthday?
It's in August.
That's the summer. All right. Well, while we're lighting the chalice, I invite you to join us in our chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. Come into the shelter of this church. Come in out of the winds and storms of life. Bring your broken hearts, your fears, your longings, and your questions. Rest among friends and spiritual companions for a peaceful hour or two, and let your weary souls be filled up once again with hope, with connection, and with peace.
Our opening hymn this morning is in the big hymnal, number 95. There is more love somewhere.
Are there any children who want to come forward for the story today? You're also welcome to stay in your seats. So does any, oh, you are going to come forward. Great. All right. All right. So I am going to, should I stay at the microphone or does it matter? Yes, do stay at the microphone. Okay. I am going to tell the story of Noah's Ark. Have you heard that story before?
Yes.
All right. So if I miss any details, children can add to it. So once upon a time, there was a man named Noah. Noah was a very good and righteous man. He treated people kindly, and he always did what was right and pleased God. However, not everybody in the world was like Noah. Now, this is a picture of Noah, if you want to. One day, God looked down at the world and saw that the people had become very wicked and were not taking care of the earth. And so, God decided to do something about it. God told Noah to build a great big boat called an ark, and then to gather animals, 2 of every kind of animal, and bring them into the ark. God explained that God was going to send a great flood to cleanse the earth, and the ark would keep Noah and Noah's family and all of the animals safe. So Noah and his family worked many, many years, working very hard to build this great big ark. They made sure to follow God's instructions and made the ark really strong. They collected enough food for themselves and for all of the animals, all that they would need during the flood. And this is a picture of the beginnings of the ark. Once the ark was completed, Noah and his family and all of the animals got onto the ark. And as soon as they were safely in the ark, it began to rain. And the rain came down day after day after day for 40 days and 40 nights. It's a lot of days and nights. Eventually, flood waters covered the entire earth, but the ark rose up above the water, and everyone on the ark stayed dry. Now, being cooped up in the ark like that must have felt as if the rain was going to last forever. But Noah and his family trusted God. They took care of the animals and they waited for the rain to stop. After 40 days and 40 nights, it finally did stop raining. And so Noah sent out a dove to see if there was dry land anywhere. The dove quickly returned with nothing. But after 7 days, the dove was sent out again, and this time, the dove came back with a freshly plucked olive leaf in its mouth. And that meant that there was dry land somewhere nearby, because there had to be an olive tree. So Noah and his family were very happy, and they knew that the flood was almost over. When God told them it was time to leave the ark, they opened the doors, and Noah's family and the animals stepped out into dry land. They were happy, and they were grateful. And then God made a promise to Noah that God would never send such a great flood again. And as a sign of that promise, God sent something very special, a great big rainbow across the sky. A rainbow to show that they were going to be safe and protected and love one another from then and forever. And that's the end of the story.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church and its work. Each week, we like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. And this week, we're going to highlight the Buildings and Grounds Committee, which we could definitely use some help on. So if you are interested in helping out with various things around the church, you don't need to run anything, but we could use a little help. Talk to Jeff Gretton, who does a lot for us, but he could use some help. Not have to do so much, so please talk to Jeff, who's in the front there. Okay. 1/4 of our plate collection for the muddy season will go to our service partner, Fruition Seeds. Fruition believes that each seed, like each of us, is in the world to change the world. They have transformed from selling and shipping seeds to sharing regionally adapted seeds, as well as the tools, inspiration, and insight for all who thrive and cultivate gift culture together. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket as it comes around, or by one of the options on the screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering, and we now gratefully accept that offering. We have quite a few joys and sorrows today. We'll start with the sorrows. I'm going to put this incident and accidentally drop it again. Dorothy is holding a sorrow in her heart that the administration is doing everything possible to make sure that the non-white immigrants are fearful and discouraged. Jody is grieving the loss of a 60-year best friend over political differences. Someone here today hopes to find a job to support themselves and family after a long unemployment. Baby Lova hopes mommy gets good rest and feels better soon. Emily holds the joy of having loving animals. One of our congregants feels joy in the community of social action taking place across the region recently. And I have a joy that my boyfriend Terrell and his cat Mitzi moved in with me this weekend. I will drop one more pebble into the calm water for the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts. And if, as I drop it in, if you could say with me, we are with you. The Mitzi part might be a little bit of a sorrow, but we'll have to see how that goes. The other part's a joy. All right, now it is time to send the children. At this time, if there are any children who would like to go to Children's Church, please head downstairs with Kaya and Pat. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the circle of hope surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I invite you to get comfortable, relax into your chairs, or feel your feet on the floor. Close your eyes if you want, or just relax, breathing in gently through your nose, your mouth. And I invite you to imagine a great, big, beautiful rainbow right in front of you. See all of the colors, feel all of the colors of that rainbow. And now we want you to focus on the color red in the rainbow. See it glowing brighter than all of the rest of the colors and surrounding you with that red color. Breathe in the color red. And think to yourself, I am safe, surrounded with the color red. And now let the color orange come to the front. Focus on that color orange glowing brighter and surrounding you. Notice what you're feeling as you see the color orange. Allow the feeling of peace to rise to the surface and wrap around you with the color orange. And now let that fade in the background and imagine the color yellow coming forward and glowing and surrounding you. Breathe in the color yellow. Remember all of those things that you do well, those things that you're good at. Allow yourself to feel grounded and confident and joyful. And now bring forward the color green and let that surround you. Breathe in that color green. Remind yourself of all the people and animals who you love. Send your love to all of those people and animals and feel their love surrounding you with the color green. And next I invite you to let the color blue come forward and surround you. Notice that color, that blue surrounding you. Think about what matters the most to you. What is it you have to say to others? Imagine yourself saying those things and being heard. And now imagine a darker blue coming forward. Breathe in the color indigo. And allow yourself, as you're thinking of that darker indigo color, to envision what you want in your life and in the world. And trust that your visions can come to fruition. And now imagine the color purple coming forward and wrapping all around you. Breathe in the color purple and remind yourself of your wisdom, the wisdom that you hold deep within you. Finally, step back and look at the entire rainbow, all of those colors. Allow the colors of the rainbow to wrap around you. Breathe in the light, breathe in the color, breathe in the diversity of yourself and of our world. I gave this sermon a year ago at First Unitarian in Rochester, and I looked over it. I thought I'd probably have to make quite a few changes because there's been so much going on in the world. And I didn't have to make that many changes, which in some ways is sad. As a Unitarian Universalist, Noah's Ark is just a story, not something that actually happened, but stories often hold transformative power. This ancient story is actually extremely relevant for today's world. The story of Noah's Ark is a story of destruction, of cooperation, and of leadership. Now, we heard kind of the watered-down children's version of this story this morning, but the God in the Noah's Ark story in the Bible became so angry at all of the evil in the world that God destroyed almost all of humanity and almost all of the creatures of the earth. Well, there's a lot that is parallel today to the evils of the world. Now, as a humanist, Unitarian Universalist, I believe that we are all responsible for what is happening on the earth. And today that includes war, terror, violence, cruelty, and greed. It includes destruction of our natural habitats, which leads to the extinction of species and the desecration of the earth itself. Again, I wrote this a year ago, and I wish more had changed. It certainly hasn't changed in a positive direction. It's only gotten worse. Humanity, humans, are responsible for this evil. We are destroying ourselves along with our habitat. Sometimes this destruction literally brings death. Sometimes it prevents us as human beings from becoming our best selves, as individuals, as communities, and as a species. As a humanist, I do not believe that God will rescue us from any of this mess. As a theist Unitarian Universalist, I don't believe in the God of this story, who is troubled by all that is going on in the world and destroys in return. However, as a theist Unitarian Universalist, the story offers me the ultimate challenge, because I believe that we are all part of God. God needs our hands and our mouths and our feet to bring love and healing into the world. I believe in a God who cannot force us to do this, and a God who cannot operate apart from us. For theists, God can only be powerful when we allow ourselves to become completely connected to God. We have a choice. One of my favorite internet stories is a modern day flood story about humanity and about God. So in the story, a levee breaks and flood waters sweep across the town. And there was a person whose home is flooded. The waters are rising and rising, and the person goes up onto the roof. The person sits in a lawn chair on the roof, sipping a drink, and just waiting, watching the floodwaters rise. No concern whatsoever. Person says, I'm going to be just fine. God's going to save me. Well, the waters are around the person's feet, but the person doesn't care. So along comes a canoe, and the canoe comes up to the edge of the house, and a man motions for the person on the roof to get in the canoe and says, I'll bring you to safety. I'm paddling to dry land. But the person on the roof says, no, thank you. God is going to save me. Well, the waters continue to rise, and now they're up over the person's knees. And then along comes a speedboat that zooms up and circles around the house and ends up at the corner of the roof. And a woman motions for the person on the roof to jump into the speedboat. I'll bring you to safety, she says. But the person on the roof just sits in that lawn chair and says, no, I'm just fine. God is going to save me. Well, the speedboat goes away and the waters continue to rise. And now the waters are up over the person's stomach, but the person's just sitting in the lawn chair on the roof, not concerned at all, sipping their drink. This time, a military helicopter comes and drops down this rope ladder, and they motion for the person to climb up. Look, hurry up, you need to be saved. The waters are rising, it's rising pretty fast. But once again, the person on the roof says, no, I'm just fine. God is going to save me. Well, the soldiers are shaking their heads and they're like, well, we can't make you climb up, so they fly away. Well, the waters continue to rise, and now they're covering the person all the way to their neck. And this isn't in the internet version, but what really happens is that along comes a dolphin swimming up and down, and the dolphin makes these flaps its flippers and makes squeaking sounds, and the person knows that the dolphin is inviting them to go on their back. And the person just looks at the dolphin and says, "Are you kidding me? I'm not going on your back. I'm going to get all wet." Well, the dolphin flaps his flippers and swims away, and the waters rise, and they're covering the person all the way to their mouth, and the person is gasping and crying out to God, "Why did you not save me? Why didn't you save me?" And God booms down from heaven, "Save you? Are you kidding me? I sent you a canoe, I sent you a speedboat, I sent you a helicopter, I even sent you a dolphin. That's all I can give you. You have to do your part." And the person falls under the water and is swallowed up in the belly of a whale. Actually, that's a different story. Well, all right. Well, I used to think of the Noah's Ark story as completely metaphorical, but the metaphor feels really eerily relevant at this point in human history and a little bit too close to home, hauntingly prophetic. The flood in the Noah's Ark story covers the entire world. Everything that everybody had known is submerged. People die, animals die, and it doesn't say it in the Bible, but plants die as well. Our world is quickly headed to this. The oceans are quite literally rising and slowly changing the coastal lands. Each flood brings us more and more global destruction. In war-ravaged parts of the world, bombing has drastically changed the landscape physically and emotionally. In Ukraine, in Palestine, in Israel. Again, I wrote this last year, and I didn't need to change anything in that section, which is disturbingly sad. We hear in the news about the human toll of war, but war also causes environmental disaster, destruction and displacement of wild animals and natural habitat. Noah's Ark combines these themes. Humanity had become so evil and destructive that the God character destroys the world with flood. Is anything different in today's world? The story provides a critical warning about environmental destruction through global climate change and through large-scale violence and destruction with weapons unimaginable in those biblical times. At this point, a related popular metaphor comes to mind. In 2005, David Foster Wallace told a story at a commencement speech of two young fish swimming along, and they happened to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" Well, the two young fish swim on a bit, and then one looks to the other and says, "What's water?" Wallace went on to talk about how we swim in the waters of our worldview, our culture, our religion. These cultures and customs and perspectives are such an integral part of our daily existence that we just don't see them. They just are. He points out that I may be in the same situation as another person, but the water we see is completely different because we see the situation so differently. He uses the example of two people who are talking about a rescue in the Alaskan wilderness. The theist sees a dramatic rescue as God saving the person. The atheist believes that humanity rescued that person, two Eskimos finding the person and leading him back to town. The same events, two completely different interpretations built on divergent worldviews. Neither person is conscious of the water that they swim in. In the old days, in this country, you could drive down the road and expect you'd have your own lane. If you were driving too slow, other people would go around you. The custom on today's highways is that the most aggressive driver gets the lane. Same for the marketplace. The most aggressive and cutthroat salesperson gets the job, even if they lie in the process. And it's just the risk you took. That's the world that Noah lived in, except it was probably more about camel races and haggling at the market. The world has become largely evil, but it was so common that people thought it was normal. In the Noah's Ark story, the ark and Noah and his family and all of the animals rise with the water. And here's the beginning of how this story can bring inspiration and hope and a call for action in our times. Using that David Foster Wallace metaphor, by sailing on top of the water, Noah and all of those on the ark could at very least see that there is water. How might you rise above the waters that you swim in and become more aware of it? If we don't figure out how to do that now, we will have no choice but to sink below the rising waters of destruction and violence. The alternative is to learn to see the water and to swim, or to join together and build communities of collaboration and hope. It is only when Noah brings together all of the animals of the earth that the ark can rise above the water. I would expand that metaphor to include the diversity of humanity in addition to all the species of the world. We will not rise above the waters we swim in until we join together across divides. When the whole crew of people and animals boarded the ark and looked around, water had covered the earth. They could no longer see divisions between countries. It must have looked like just one vast ocean. On the ark, there could be no divisions of race and class and species. Somehow all of the creatures had to find a way to coexist peacefully on that long journey. Somehow they had to transcend their previous worldview and behaviors. Just the ship would have sunk if they hadn't done that. Our ship will sink if we don't do this. Leadership is a crucial piece of this story. Under God's orders, Noah gathers together pairs of all the creatures of the earth. Overcoming global violence, greed, and global climate change is possible, but it will take confident and determined leadership. People who can bring the people of the world together across vast differences of culture, of religion, of worldview. Now, in our Unitarian Universalist faith, we have not historically had one leader, but many, many leaders moving towards similar goals. We need leaders with vision and skills to get the world organizing and moving in the same direction. And, take a breath before I say this, we also need leadership across species. What can other intelligent life offer the world if we reach out in humility and collaboration, reaching out to the whales, the dolphins, the chimpanzees, the elephants? Are other species actually trying to lead us, but we're not listening, or we don't even know how to listen? As a theist, my God wants to help us, but we keep looking away, expect somebody else or to save us. We do not allow ourselves to accept our own role in our survival. Or maybe we accept the role, but we act as though we can do it alone. Sometimes I wonder, what if an all-powerful God could clean our atmosphere and reverse global climate change in just an instant, just like that? It sounds fantastic. But I actually think it wouldn't be. Why? Because if there was a God who could hand us salvation, we humans could and we would go ahead and repeat those cycles of destruction over and over again, destroying our earth over and over again. Because in the back of our minds, we would have, well, it doesn't really matter because God's going to save us again. On the other hand, if we're hopeless and we believe there's nothing left we can do, that the earth is just going to be destroyed, then the earth will just be destroyed. But if instead we understand the impending global tragedy and believe that anything really is possible and that we have a role, then we can and we will learn to come together across the divides. If we do this, we could be changed as a species. We will move to a new level of consciousness and a new level of connection across race, religion, culture, worldview, and species. If we persevere and change ourselves as a species, then and only then will we not repeat those cycles of violence and desecration and destruction. We are at a major watery crossroads. Our survival is not guaranteed. However you want to interpret the God character in the modern day flood story to fit your theology, the God character gave the person 4 tries. I see this person on the roof as a part of each one of our inner souls. It's the part of me who wants to deny that there are any problems in life, in my life, or in the world. The part of me who waits for someone else to change things and rescue me. But each one of us is also the good Samaritans, the woman in the canoe, the man in the canoe, the woman in the speedboat, the soldiers in the helicopter, and that compassionate dolphin. They are the parts of me who want to help others, who sometimes take risk, who sometimes share our supplies. We need to transcend all of these characters and learn to ride on the back of the dolphin together. In practical terms, what does that look like in today's world? How do we set out on this journey to survive the coming floods and transcend the divisions between us? We need leaders. We need to walk in pairs. But it's far more than the Noah story of the sexually procreating pairs. We need parents and children, sibling and sibling, friend and friend, teacher and student, neighbor and neighbor, homeowner and wildlife. We need to walk together in communities. Change is hard. It takes risk. The Noah character and his family took a tremendous risk, building a huge ark for a flood that hadn't yet happened, and then leading all of those animals on board and stocking it with grain and food. They didn't know if the plan would succeed. They followed a vision, and it eventually led to this treacherous sea journey that finally ended with sending out a dove who came back with a sign of dry land, the olive branch. The branch of peace led to fertile lands and new life. The waters receded, and they started a new life that transcended previous worldviews and behaviors. If Noah and his family didn't take that risk, the change would have come, but it would have been everybody dying under the floodwaters. In the end, this is important, God sent out a rainbow in the Noah story as a sign of God's promise of faithfulness. But the rainbow is also a symbol of diversity, of connection, of collaboration across differences. In our world today, it's going to take a large effort on our part, and that effort has to start now. It might be one large ark, our spaceship Earth, but it also could be building a whole bunch of smaller arks. I see my city wellness center as one of those smaller arks. We cannot step forward and let others do the work. We need to connect across divides to heal our world. This means getting involved in community projects beyond our own family and our own church. Our lives are so full and so busy that it's easy to say there isn't enough time or this isn't the right time in my life. But if today isn't the right time, it will be too late. Our families will drown with the oncoming floodwaters, or the metaphor of what the floodwaters represent. Our relatively comfortable lifestyles are time limited. We are being thrown into an epic journey, and it will come whether we like it or not. Today is the only time. That happens to make it the right time. It's all we have. Be like Noah, or be inspired by Noah. Listen to what the world is calling you to do. Listen to what your neighborhood needs from you. Listen to what the city, the community needs from you. Take risks to connect with people you don't know and you don't yet understand. Don't just focus on friends and family, because we can't save the world in isolated units. We can only save the world through cooperation, through coming together across vast divides. It's time to commit to the journey before we no longer have the choice. Where are your skills needed? How can you lead in your own way beyond the walls of your own home? Our common home, the earth, depends on each one of us to act and each one of us to lead in our own way. Go out into the world and rise above the waters of hatred. Find ways to join together with the diversity of humanity and build community. Watch for rainbows that sparkle over the storms of life. Our closing hymn will be 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Please rise as you're willing and able and join us to sing.
Far away from the rolling ocean,
Y'all sounded great out there. That's my favorite song. I love that one. If you're joining us on Zoom, now is the time to turn your camera off and make the way of God. Please join me in our words for extinguishing the candle. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please stay for potluck. Are you able to stay for potluck? Yeah, I will do